Welcome back to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here with Jana Dunford, and we're going to be talking some more about, let's see, episode. This is episode 3, and it's the 19th of July, 2026, here in Enterprise, Utah. We're going to talk about some Japan more, and then move on from there, and see how things progress from here. It'll be a She's told me she's been here and here and here. It's like she's been everywhere. It's like, I was joking when I said, where we're going next, Brazil. She goes, no, China. I was like, oh, okay, why not? Let's go to China then. Okay, so we're still in Japan. You're wrapping up your school year. You've been there, almost 10 months. And what anything else about Japan that was?
Well, I thought of some things. I think, I had great friends who were there. They picked me up for school every morning. We walked home together. I started out, they were the ones who introduced me to Super Mario Brothers, the video game. It was brand new back then, of course, yeah. From Japan. And I remember playing Super Mario with all of them in their house. That was fun. But I remember that we all had to pick a club. So the school day, it would start at whatever time, 8 o'clock in the morning. My friends would stop by my house, pick me up, and we would walk to school. And we were busy at school all day doing our classes, and we all brought lunches from home every single day. And because I didn't like fish, I brought peanut butter sandwiches every single day for that whole school year, and I made them every day for myself. And when my friends found out that I made my own lunch every day, they were completely amazed. But how hard is it to make peanut butter?
Why is that? Whoa.
Their moms all made them their...
The moms all made
the moms made their lunches for them, and they were always rice with fish and things like that. Oh. But I didn't want that, and so I made my own lunch. I made peanut butter sandwiches every day. Okay. Perfectly fine with, because that was better than fish. But anyway, but I remember that we had to pick a club. So school got done at 3-ish, but we were not done with school. School didn't get done until 6 because we were in clubs. And so I wanted to play tennis. So I tried out for the tennis team, and that was one of the worst experiences for me because I'm not really an athletic kind of person, but I wanted to be great at tennis. But before we actually got to play tennis, they made us run laps around the school, and our school was on a hill. And so we had to go down the hill, around the bottom, back up the hill, and we had to do this over and over. And I was dying. It was awful. I've never had such sore muscles. I mean, like screaming sore in my life. It was an awful experience. And after 2 weeks, we finally got the tennis rackets out. I hadn't even started that. When the tennis teacher said, "Would you like to try a different club?" Yeah, I would. It was terrible. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up with the other kids. And so I thought, well, the only one I could possibly even try was band. And so I decided to go try band. Well, so I didn't know any band instruments. I had played piano. My mom taught me all the piano. I actually had 2 years of violin. In Illinois, but they didn't have an orchestra, so I couldn't play violin, so I had to pick a new instrument. Well, I also didn't speak Japanese right at the beginning, and so they just got out a poster. They showed me the poster, and I knew that they were trying to ask me, which one do you want to play? So I thought, well, I want to play the coolest one on here, so I picked oboe. And, so I point to oboe, and I could tell they were saying, we don't have anybody to teach you oboe. So I'm like, dang, I'll have to pick something else, so I thought I'll pick the one with the most buttons, clarinet. So that's my logic. So I picked clarinet. And so then I got that somebody taught me how to play clarinet. And I don't know, we must, now that I've see other students in bands here in America, I just think either I must have had an amazing teacher there in Japan, or it's just the amount of time we put in. I don't know. But by the time we got to the end of that school year, we were winning awards for our band playing. And me being a brand new clarinetist, I didn't understand it when we went to these programs that we did, or contests, whatever it was. But I just remember they said, and they announced our school, Hiyodoriyama Chugakko, which is that name. Hiyodoriyama Junior High School was the name of it. And they would announce it, you got silver. And our whole, band erupted into cheers. And, I didn't know what was going on, but it was amazing to me because we were doing great and our band sounded really good. And this was just a, junior high band. We had 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, and that was it. And so I remember that's where I learned clarinet, and when it, kept playing the clarinet through the rest of my junior high. Another thing that I thought about was how our neighbor across the road from us was super nice, and that she didn't speak any English, and my mom didn't speak any Japanese, and my mom didn't really pick it up either because she wasn't in school like we were. And so she had a really hard time communicating with the neighbors, with anybody, because she didn't speak Japanese. Mm-hmm. But our neighbor was super nice, and she invited my sister and I to participate in an actual tea ceremony. And so we got to do that. We had to go practice. We went and practiced with some other girls. And so we went and did that. And we dressed in the kimonos. They had us dress up and put our hair up. And we had to learn just how to turn the bowl just the right number of times, and how you bend down a certain way, you kneel a certain way, you turn, and everything, and how you present it to each person. And so we got to go and actually do a real tea ceremony and participate in it. And, just like the rest of the people serving the tea, we actually served it to all these ladies who came to the tea ceremony.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. My sister and I both got to do it and, dress up. We have pictures of us all dressed up doing that. And I just remember it was, it was quite a bit of practicing. We had to know you have to do it just right. Exactly right. You've got to do it just right. So, and when it was our turn to get the tea, because we don't drink tea, then they just gave us hot water. But I remember it was boiling hot water. And I was like, having to be very careful about not burning my tongue because it really was boiling water. Ooh. But it was really cool because we got to do it in an actual Japanese pagoda, a lot in some of those places where they have them all as like all together. I don't remember what the place was, but anyway, that was one of the things that we got to do. And then we we went on a couple of trips, and we went because we had 1 month off in the summer. And so we went with a family in our ward, the Kishino family, and they took us out into the country. And I remember after we got in the car, they had 2 kids. They had a girl and a boy. And we had 2 cars. So we were driving our 2 cars. And we drove out half an hour, and then they stopped. They stopped driving. And you had to get out of your car, and we're like, are we there? Oh, no, we have a long way to go. Well, what are we doing? Well, it's time to stretch. And, here we had already made a 3-day trek across America, driving for hours and hours and hours, in Japan, every 30 minutes, you've got to stop and take a break and stretch, and, because it's a long journey. And I just thought it was funny. And I appreciated it, but it was just kind of, it was different from what we knew as normal.
Is that a custom? That's what they do?
That's what you do.
Okay.
You just take a break. One time when we visited this awesome, like, it wasn't an amusement park, but it was a park we went to. They had the first wave pool that I'd ever seen. It was the coolest wave pool. And we went in the wave pool, and they were, we were playing and playing and playing the whole time, having a great time. And then all of a sudden, blow the whistles or whatever, everybody out of the water. But they did this every hour, no matter what. You had to get out of the pool for 10 minutes, rest required, every single person. Then you can go back and play. In 1 hour, you get out and you rest again. And this was just standard. Everybody did it. Everybody knew. And so it's fine. It just wasn't what we were used to. And so, but on our trip, we finally got to where we were going. And we did get to stay in the rice paper house. It was big with the big, thick thatched roofs. And it probably was a hotel. And so we stayed in there, and it was really cool. But what I remember a lot about that was they really were rice paper walls. And they were sliding, and at night they didn't have any night lights or anything in there. And I remember I had to go to the bathroom. I don't know what time it was, but it was pitch black. And the blankets, I don't know what they made him out of either. I was sure that they had loaded those blankets with rocks because I could not lift it. It was the heaviest blanket I've ever slept on in my life. I could not lift the blanket. So I had to slide out the top of my bed, which was on the floor. It was on the floor. I had to slide out the top. And then I had to try to find the door. Well, it was pitch black and I couldn't find it. And literally walls would slide. So I'm like, well, maybe here's one. I can slide it open. And I'm like, someone's snoring in this room. I don't know who it is. Like, this is not the right door. Shut the wall. Go find another wall that opens until I could find one that went out into the hallway. And anyway, it was just crazy. And then when I came back from the bathroom, I still could not lift that blanket. I had to slide in the top. I don't know. I seriously don't know what was in that blanket.
Wow.
It was heavy as rocks. But I was warm. For sure, I was warm. But it was just interesting. I thought that. Anyway, and I do remember, because I slept on the floor the whole time that I was in Japan. The rest of my family, they had beds to sleep on. But in our house that we were in, I was on the floor. And then after a while, I came and slept upstairs, but I was still on the floor. I do want to say, here's a story about my bed there. I'm kind of diverging from the trip here. But when I was, laying there on my bed, every night I would go to sleep. Well, after a while, your parents don't always tell you everything you should do. And every night I would lie down on my bed and I would hear this little thought in my head that said, you should sit up and say your prayers. And I didn't want to. I'm a kid. I'm like, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. Every single night I would hear this little thought in my head, you should sit up and say your prayers. Months went by and I wouldn't sit up. And finally one day I thought about that, how I had been hearing that little thought in my head every single night. I finally said, okay, fine. I will sit up and say my prayers. So I knelt on my bed and my bed was on the floor. It was a futon on the floor. I knelt up and I said, Dear Heavenly Father. And when I said that, the Holy Ghost came whooshing into my heart from the air. It's so fast and so strong that I put my hand down to catch myself from falling backwards on my bed. And I was so shocked. I thought even that it would hurt, that I was hurt because it was so sudden. But I wasn't hurt and I just felt peace. I felt calm. And I learned from that experience that day that God really does hear your prayers, that the Holy Ghost is there. And from that day forward, I have tried to say my prayers every single day of my life. And as far as I can remember, I don't think I have missed one day in the last 40 years.
Wow. That's pretty good.
I have tried. It doesn't mean that my prayers are all perfect and wonderful. Sometimes they're just boring prayers, but I have tried to remember to say them every single day. And I've tried to improve over the years to include morning prayers as well and not just nighttime prayers. But that was such a powerful experience to me that I thought I will never again forget to say my prayers. And I haven't. And even my bad times, my good times, no matter what, I just always try to report in about, whatever is going on. And, but anyway, but I wanted to say a little bit more about this trip that we took with our friends, the Kishinos, because we went to a glacier. We went hiking up Mount Hakuba, and there was a glacier at the top, and it was great. Like we went on this nice little hike up there. We got up there and we were standing on the glacier and, just kind of playing in the snow, and it was great. But at one point I started to fall. I fell down and the glacier was on a slant. And I kept sliding and sliding and sliding. I couldn't stop myself and nobody saw me. And I could hear the water at the bottom getting louder and louder. And I started to get really panicked. And I started trying so hard to stop myself. I thought if I don't stop myself, no one will know that I've slid off the edge of the glacier into the water. They will never find me.
Wow.
And so I was just clawing at the ice, trying to get myself to stop. I finally got myself to stop. And then I had to climb back up. one hand at a time. And I got a certain ways and then I started sliding down again. And I was able to get myself to stop again. And I finally made it all the way back up to my family. But I thought that was dangerous. That was really scary. No one would have known. They wouldn't have known where I'd gone.
Wow.
I would have just been disappeared into the water at the bottom. And anyway, I was just really grateful. I survived.
So with that experience in mind, people complaining about glaciers receding because of global warming, supposedly global warming. You don't have a problem with it, probably. Yeah, get rid of them all.
No, glaciers are fine, but we need all parts of nature for sure. But maybe be a little more careful where you're going and keep an eye on your kids, even your big kids. I mean, I was 12, so I was one of the older kids, but gee whiz, that was a really scary thing. I mean, I thought we were having fun, like we put our arms out and I could feel cold air on one hand and warm air on the other. So it was really an interesting experience being up on that glacier. And we kept feeling the air flip around like that. So it would be cold and hot and at the same time. But yeah, that was a very scary experience.
Yeah.
And I'm here. I made it through. I lived to tell about it. Yes. So anyway, that was one of our trips. And then we also went on a trip to Hokkaido, which is the top island of Japan. And we didn't drive. We rode a train, which was the bullet train. And we rode that all the way from Tokyo to the top of Japan. And it was great. It was very smooth and beautiful, very peaceful. We got all the way up there very quickly. And then we took a ferry across the channel to Hokkaido and spent a week just playing and sightseeing and things there. And honestly, I don't remember anything about being there except that I carried my little sister, who was, I guess she would have been 2 or 3 years old. I carried her on my back everywhere we went. So it was like she was my little backpack on my back. And the weird thing was, it didn't even bother me. I didn't have sore muscles, anything, but everywhere we went that trip, I was carrying my little sister on my back. When we would walk on these really long, big sidewalks and things. So I don't remember all the things we did, but I remember we had a great time. And when we came home, the next weather report that we heard was, and Hokkaido got dumped on. And we had just had the most perfect vacation week and totally missed the snowstorm. Yes.
Escaped that one.
We escaped. So it was really cool. And then, I remember too, another story about my bed. Now you're thinking about it. One morning before I got up, I remember thinking, I got to go to the bathroom. I was wiggling in my bed. I got to go. I better get up. And then all of a sudden I stopped wiggling. I'm like, that was an earthquake. That was not me with the bathroom. That was an earthquake. Like we were shaking that much. And I remember another time that we had the very first earthquake that we had when I was at school. We were up on the 5th floor in the music room. We were waiting for our music teacher to show up. And all of a sudden, and here's all the kids yappity yap about everything. And all of a sudden, all the yappity went like this. And I'm like, what is going on? And they all kept saying the same thing. They kept saying, Jishin. I'm like, what is, it's an earthquake. And we were on the 5th floor, so the building was swaying. Yep. We could feel it. And all the students dove under the desk. And I'm like, well, everyone else is doing it. I guess I better do it too. And I dove under my desk because I didn't know any better. And then the earthquake passed. But I wondered after that, was that crack in the wall there before? I don't know if it was there before. And I remember looking out the window and the people outside were like, there are a couple guys out in the schoolyard just flat on their tummies, just sprawled out on the ground, just like everybody's holding on for dear life because it was a pretty strong earthquake. But anyway, yes, we had earthquakes and we had, things like that. And I do remember they had at 9 o'clock every night, they had an alarm going off, and it was Ode to Joy. I think it was Ode to Joy, the song. Dun, 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 dun. They had that. It was basically telling everybody it's time to go to bed. And it would go off at 9 o'clock every night. So anyway, but Yeah, it was a long year, and because we spent so much time in school. We get done at 6 o'clock, and I'd go home, eat dinner, and do homework and go to bed every single day, Monday through Saturday, and Sunday was go to church. And most of the time at church, I was bored because I didn't learn church language. I learned school language. And by the time by the time we got to the end of our time there, I could walk into almost any conversation and understand what topic they were talking about. And, I could speak it decently.
Okay.
At a 12-year-old level. I was not proficient like adults were because there are three different levels of, politeness in Japanese, kind of lower key, lower me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was good at kid language, not necessarily adult Japanese. But anyway, I could, still when my dad calls me on the phone or I call him on the phone, he'll say, moshi moshi, and genki desu ka? And I will answer genki desu. But when we were there, I would never talk to my dad in Japanese ever. I only spoke to him in English, even though I could speak Japanese, but I don't know why. I just didn't want to.
Well.
But I would always talk in Japanese at school, always, but not at home. I would never do that at home. But
Okay.
but then we did stop in Hong Kong. We had to, because something about the tickets, we had to stop in Hong Kong. So we flew over there, and I just remember how much pollution was there when we flew in, just a lot of pollution. But the Chinese people are definitely different in their attitudes and their behavior and things. And so they were, I would call them more aggressive than the Japanese people, or more reserved or like that. But it was interesting. We got to, at the time, Hong Kong was not part of China, was still still being owned by the British.
Yeah.
And so I remember looking over the fences at the no man's land between Hong Kong and the rest of China. So we didn't go into China. We were just in Hong Kong, and just as sightseers, if we did that. And then a little bit later, we came home, and, my friends were so nice to me, and they threw me this going away party, and they were just so nice. They had planned out all the things for me and made a cassette tape of all their voices. I have all their cute little voices on the
Nice.
Yeah, they were so sweet. And I cried. I just cried and cried because I loved Japan. I loved all my friends. I had one of the teachers, I think he was a history teacher or something, and he said, are you going to go back to America? And of course, he's asking me in Japanese, are you going to go back to America and tell everyone how mean we are to you? And I knew he was referring to World War II. I knew he was referring to the atomic bomb and everything and all of that, saying that we were, the Japanese people were mean to Americans, et cetera, et cetera. And I said to him, no, I will not ever say that. I will not say that, because my experience in Japan was that the people were wonderful. I thought they were just the kindest people ever. And there was one day when we were with my dad, and he was with some work colleagues, and we had gone to dinner with these people. And when we were finished, we were just visiting outside of where we had eaten, and a drunk person came up to us. Why? Because my little sister was adorable with her blonde little curls, and he wanted to touch her hair. And, the rest of us, all Americans, standing there in the middle of all these Japanese people. So he was coming up to touch us, to, see who we were and stuff. Well, and so all of the rest of the colleagues that were there visiting, they formed quietly, without saying anything, they formed a circle around us, around my family, to protect us from this drunk man, to make sure we were safe. I just found the Japanese people to be wonderful.
Yeah.
They were wonderful friends. They were so kind to me. And when I went home after my party, and I just cried. I did not want to go back to America. And when I came home, so now we got back to America, and I was not happy. We came back to Illinois. We came back to Jacksonville, and we weren't there very long. We were only there a few months, not even 6 months. I don't think we were even there. But I went to the junior high that I was supposed to go to. It was miserable. I hated it. Everybody smoked. There were drug problems there. And this was in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. It was terrible. I'd stand at the bus stop and the kids would just smoke. I mean, there were like 10 or 15 of them waiting to get on the bus and they're just smoking. And I'm like, I want nothing to do with this. The whole time I was in Japan, I didn't hear swear words or anything, either because I didn't understand it or they just didn't say them. And so here I had not heard bad language, foul language for so long. And then to hear all of these kids swearing and smoking, doing all the things that we aren't supposed to do, it was so depressing. And, being at the school and walking down the hallways of the school, swear words right and left. It was just awful and no unity. The friends that I had in elementary before, I had 2 of them say hi, and that was it. They weren't my friends anymore. They didn't care to come around to talk to me or anything. It was very lonesome and very frustrating. And one of my teachers had told me, keep a journal while you're in Japan so you can tell us about it. No one ever asked for that journal. Nobody cared anything about where I had been for the last year. And I discovered some other things, like whatever math we were doing in Japan was not the same math we were doing in America, and I was lost. And I never climbed out of that. I could never get ahead on my math. And
You mean algebra and stuff like that?
yeah, I struggled with math ever after that because I could not figure it out.
Yeah.
Even though I was getting good grades in Japan in my math, but I could not figure it out when I came back here.
Yeah, I was good at math until you put the alphabet in there. At that point, I was done.
And then I remember being in my English class and the teacher called on me for, first time. And she said, okay, Jana, tell us what an adverb is. Okay. So the thing is, I had been in Japan. We had English class over there, but I already knew how to speak English. Their English class was them trying to teach English to the Japanese kids. Yeah. And so for that was English class. And they were teaching things like, this is a cat. How are you? Yeah. That was English class in Japan. And now I come to English class in America, and she said to me, what is an adverb? And I'm thinking, well, no. She said, what's an adjective? What's an adjective? And I said, I looked up on the board and I'm like, well, verb and adverb must go together. But adjective, there's not adjective anywhere. I didn't know what she was talking about. And I was just silent because my brain had come from a different place. Yep. And I hadn't even been spelling any English words for so long. I kind of forgot how to spell. And anyway, it was not fun. I did not enjoy that junior high at all. But that's okay because then my dad got a new job. So here we go again.
And let's take that when we come back here. And we'll discuss, where'd you go now? Where did you travel to next? So anyways, folks, we'll be right back in just a minute with the next episode. Thank you for listening to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show.